Happy to see some people that I recognize from last time and also some new friends. All right, everybody, we're going to go ahead and get started. Thank you for joining us today for Think Like an Engineer Part 2. If you were with us last time, thank you for coming back and joining us again. And if you are joining for the first time today, welcome. We are so excited to have you. My name is Sydney, and I will be your instructor today. So you'll see my image up here in the little box. We also have a co-host named Kayla, and she's going to wave to everybody. All right, so you won't see Kayla's image throughout our webinar today, but you will be chatting with her in the chat box. So as you are chatting today, she will be the person that you are chatting with. Now, this might be a little bit different than other Zoom meetings that you've had before, because today you won't be able to see everybody else's picture or video, and you won't be chatting with everybody. So even though there are about 20 of us here today, you're only going to be chatting with Kayla. So it might look a little different than some other Zoom meetings you've been to before. Just know that anytime you chat, that will go right to Kayla, and I will also be able to see that. All right, we are going to get started today with a land acknowledgement for the Sacramento area. I'm going to read this out loud. You can follow along, or if you'd like to read it from your screen, you can also read it. We acknowledge that we are on the territory of the Nisenan, Southern Maidu, and Valley Miwok peoples. We honor the people, the elders, and the ancestors who have been caretakers of this land for thousands of years and who were forcibly removed from this land. For their sake, and for the sake of the natural systems and their inhabitants, we aim to respect this land on which we are humble visitors. Right. So we're going to quickly review the Zoom features that we're going to be using today, and I see that so many of you already know what you're doing because you are already showing me that you can raise your hand and use that chat feature. The first feature we're going to use today is our chat box. So throughout our webinar today, I might be asking you some questions, and I'm going to ask you to answer them in the chat box. You can also use that chat box if you have any questions. So if you don't hear an instruction or you need some help, you can go ahead and chat any question you have in there, and Kayla will answer that question right away. To practice using that chat box, I would love to know, what city are you tuning in from today? So what city are you in? Go ahead and chat your answer in that chat box. Ooh, we've got a friend from Reno, Nevada today. A couple of friends from Reno. Awesome. Welcome Colin and Pete and Chloe and Austin from Reno. Ooh, we've got some friends from Sparks, Dutch Flat, Arizona, Alta, Reno, Yerington. Wonderful. Alta, Dutch Flat, Sparks. Thank you all for joining us today. All right. So we're going to use that chat feature throughout our time together today. It looks like everybody is getting used to using that. We are also going to be using this raise hand feature. Now we might use that today to check in to see if you are done working on an experiment or if you're ready to move on. So right now, go ahead and show me that you can use that feature by clicking that little raise hand button. Awesome. And when you click on it, it's going to show up as green. If you click on that button again, you will lower your hands. So go ahead and lower your hands. Wonderful. Thank you all. All right, we're going to quickly review our 3 ingredients for success again. Ingredient number 1 is show respect. I would like you to think right now, how are you going to show respect today during our webinar? When you have an idea, go ahead and chat that in the chat box. How can you show respect during our webinar today? We can be nice to one another. We can be nice and listen. Ooh, using appropriate language. Listen, don't interrupt, be kind. Don't say rude things on the chat. Don't mess with the screen. Those are all great ways that we can show respect today while we're together in our webinar. Awesome. Wonderful, not messing around, listening, using the chat box appropriately, following directions. Great ways to show respect. Ingredient number 2 is make good decisions. So today we're gonna think before we act and think before we speak in that chat box to make sure that we're doing things that are helpful and not hurtful. And number 3, solve problems. We know that engineers have lots of problems to solve, so we're gonna be solving those engineering problems today. But again, you might also have some personal problems that you need to solve. So if you need to get up today to maybe use the restroom or get a drink of water or go find some supplies, you can do that at any time. You don't have to ask before you do that. You can go ahead and solve your own problems by yourself. And if you have a problem maybe with technology, you can always ask somebody else for some help, or if you need some help, you can chat Kayla and she'll try her best to help you out. If you will do your best to show respect, make good decisions, and solve problems, go ahead and show me that raised hand. Wonderful. Right, looks like everybody has that hand raised. And to go along with our 3 ingredients for success, we also have our webinar etiquette, and that just means our manners that we're going to use today. So when we are using that chat box, we want to make sure that we're making comments that are positive and helpful. So making sure that our comments are on task and that they are things that are going to help us learn and not hurt our learning. Ask questions if you don't understand something. So if you are ever confused or you don't hear an instruction, go ahead and use that chat box and ask a question so we can make sure that we're all on the same page. Number 3 is stay engaged. So many of you told me that was a great way to show respect. And the last one is have fun. And if we do all these things, we're going to have a lot of fun together. All right. Now, before we get started on our engineering problem today, I would like to get to know you all a little bit better. So I want to know, what is your favorite type of dessert? Go ahead and chat your answer in our chat box. What is your favorite type of dessert? Ooh, all desserts. I love that answer. Blackberry pie, cake, ice cream, homemade ice cream, yum. Jell-O, confetti cake, brownies, jelly beans, candy. These all sound really good. It's making me hungry. Gummy worms, yum. Whipped cream with berries, ooh. Cupcakes, candy. Awesome. Great answers, everybody. My favorite kind of dessert, I think, is cheesecake with fresh strawberries on top. Ooh, some people can't choose just one, I agree. So many tasty desserts. All right. Now, today for our webinar, we are going to need some materials again. And once we go over these materials, I'm going to give everybody a few moments to go collect them. So if you were with us last time, we created our engineering design process. If you were here for part 1, I would like you to have this with you today. If you were not with us for part 1, that is okay. You don't need to have this. You are also going to need 8 pieces of paper. Just like last time, it's okay if they have some writing on them on one or both sides. But you need at least 8 pieces of paper. You need some tape. Now, I have this blue painter's tape, but whatever kind of tape you have at home will work. Just some sort of tape. You need 2 Tupperware or plastic containers that are the same height. So I have these green little bins here, but if you have Tupperware containers that you put lunch in, or a cup, anything that you have 2 that are the same height. You also need small objects for weight again. So you might have Legos or blocks or coins. I have some pennies again, and this time my pennies are in little stacks of 10. And then you also need something to write with, either a pen or a pencil or a marker. So right now I'm going to give everybody 2 minutes to go and collect those materials. And once you get back and you're ready to move on, you can show me that raised hand. All right, thank you for those of you that are showing that you're ready to move on. Looks like some people are telling us in the chat box that they're ready. It looks like some people can't hear us right now. If you can hear my voice, if you could just type that you can hear us in the chat box so we can figure out if everybody's having that issue. All right, looks like, thank you to those of you that, all right. Thank you for letting us know that you can hear us. Ooh, great question. Somebody asked if they need 2 cups still. If you want to use cups instead of Tupperware containers, you can. But if you have some Tupperware containers like this, you don't need to have cups this time. We'll take about 30 more seconds for everybody to get their belongings. If you don't know what our supplies are for yet, that's okay. We're going to go over all of that in just a little bit. So it might be kind of silly to have all this random stuff sitting here. We'll tell you exactly what we're going to use it for very soon. All right. So before we move on, I want to refresh our memories and remember what an engineer is, because we are going to be acting as engineers today. We've got some pictures of engineers that are at work here. And an engineer is a person who solves problems using math and science. And just like last time, today we're going to be engineers again. So I'm going to point to yourself and say, I'm an engineer. And I'm so happy that I have so many wonderful engineers again today, because I need some help solving my problem. And to help us do that, we're going to be using the engineering design process again. So our engineering design process is going to help us solve our problem today. We start with the first bubble up here that says ask. And that's when we remember what our problem is and we define our constraints. And remember, those constraints are the small little details that we have to remember while we solve our problem. After that, we're going to brainstorm and imagine some solutions. And then we get to start planning. Today, we're going to focus on these 2 bubbles. So we're going to be creating our bridges today, and we're going to be improving our bridges. So as we are working together today, we're going to focus on those 2 bubbles. But just like we talked about last time, sometimes we might jump around in this. So once we are creating, we might learn that we have some more problems. We have to go back up to the top again. So we're going to use this engineering design process to help us work through our problem today. Speaking of that, let's remind ourselves what our problem is. And while I'm telling you our problem again, I want you to think about the constraints, or those small little details that we have to keep in mind. So last weekend, I was at the river enjoying my picnic, and I was eating my sandwich, and I heard somebody calling my name, Sydney, Sydney, come here. And I looked across the river, and I saw my friend, and they were saying, Sydney, come here. I have something really cool to show you. I was looking over and I was like, I really want to get across that river because I want to see this cool thing my friend has to show me. So I walked up to the river and I touched it, and the water is really cold. And I was observing the water and I noticed it was moving really fast. And I was looking to see if I could see the bottom of the river, and I noticed the water is really deep. So those are my constraints. The water is very cold It's moving really fast, and it's pretty deep. Last time we were together, we learned some things about building and creating that are going to help us out today. So what we learned so far is that folding paper makes it stronger. Who remembers why folding paper makes it stronger? If you remember how that helps make paper stronger, go ahead and type it in the chat box. Why does folding paper make it stronger? There is more layers, that's right. It's thicker, it doubles it up, and it adds more layers. So today we're gonna use that knowledge that we have to start creating our bridges. We also learned that bridges are made up of lots of different shapes. I want you to look at this picture of the bridge right here and go ahead and chat. What shapes do you see in this bridge? We see some squares, some X's, some triangles and rectangles. Ooh, a V shape. Rectangle, X's, lines, rectangles, triangles, squares. I noticed all those shapes as well. Thank you for sharing. All right, so today we're going to be using some different shapes to make our bridges. And this is where we're going to create and we're going to try out our bridges. Now, today we're going to focus on building 3 different shapes. We're going to learn how to build cylinders, which has this shape right here, rectangles, like this one right here, and triangles, like this one right here. So we're going to start by learning how to fold a cylinder. So right now, I would like you to get ready to fold the shape with me. What you need for this is 1 piece of paper and some tape. Once you have your piece of paper and tape, show me that raised hand icon. Perfect. All right, I'm going to tilt my screen down so you can see how I fold the shape. And I would like you to go ahead and fold along with me. And if you need me to repeat any instructions, just type that in the chat box. So when we make our shapes today, last time we were together, we talked about how our bridge needs to be long enough to cross our river. So we're going to fold all of our shapes the long way, or hot dog style. So to start my cylinder, I'm going to just bend my edge up a little bit like this. And then I'm going to start rolling it. And once I roll it all the way, I have this tube or a cylinder. Now, my last step to make my cylinder is I have to add some tape. So I'm going to hold my shape with one hand, and I'm going to get some small little strips of tape. And I'm going to tape the edge and tape the middle and tape the other edge. Then I have a cylinder. Once you make your cylinder, I would like you to go ahead and raise your hand to show me that you made the cylinder. Awesome. Wonderful. I'm going to give everybody a little bit more time to finish making their cylinder. Once you made your cylinder, you can just kind of set it off to the side. We're going to come back to this shape in a little bit. So go ahead and just set it off to the side for now. Let's take about 30 more seconds to finish this first cylinder. And if anybody needs me to repeat instructions, please go ahead and chat that in the chat box and I can show you again. All right, we're going to move on to our next shape, which is our rectangle. So again, for this shape, you're going to need one piece of paper and some strips of tape. Go ahead and get those supplies ready. I see that some engineers are showing me they're ready by raising their hand. Thank you so much. Now our rectangle is going to have a few more steps. So if you get lost or confused at any time, please just chat that in the chat box and I will start again. Just like last time, we are going to fold our paper hot dog style or along the long edge here. To start our rectangle, we're going to fold our paper in half. So I'm going to fold mine in half and line up the corners. Once I have it lined up, I'm going to squish, squish, squish my crease. All right. My next step is to fold it in half again. So I'm going to take my piece of paper and I'm going to fold it in half again. So I line up my corners. And once I have them lined up, I'm going to go squish, squish, squish. Now I have this long, skinny piece of paper. Next, we're going to open it up all the way. So I'm going to pull it apart. And you'll notice, once I pull it apart, I have three sides that are going the right way. So I already have three sides of a rectangle, 1, 2, and 3. But then I have this side over here that's kind of sticking out the wrong way. I call that my silly side. And we need to fix that silly side. So I'm going to lay my paper back down, and I'm going to fold that silly side over on the same line that I already made, and squish, squish, squish. Once you have that, if you line up your edges, this is the trickiest part, you'll notice it makes a rectangle. Now the rectangle can be kind of tricky to tape, so I'm going to give you a little trick. If you lay your paper flat on your table and you match up these two parts right here, you can just tape it while it's flat like this. 1, 2, and 3. And if you pop it open, you have a rectangle. Now, I know that was a lot of steps, so if anybody needs me to repeat that again, you can chat that. All right, we're going to go over that one more time just to make sure that everybody caught that. So I'm going to grab another piece of paper. We're going to fold that rectangle one more time. If you already made yours, you can just sit back and relax, or you can make another rectangle with me. All right, so I start with my paper flat on the table, and I find my long edge. We're going to fold our paper in half and line up our corners. And then we're going to squish, squish, squish our crease. Once we have that done, we're going to do it again. So we're going to line up our corners. And then we go squish, squish, squish. Now we're ready to open it back up. So once we have it open, we have our three sides that are going the right way. 1, 2, 3. And our silly side. I'm going to lay my paper flat on the table. And I fold that silly side back over. And go squish, squish, squish. Now when you line up your edges, you have a rectangle. I'm going to lay my paper flat on the table again and match up those two edges. I'm going to add my tape while it's flat. So I take my small pieces of tape And I'm gonna add some tape to the edge, to the middle, and to the other edge. And when I open it back up, I have a rectangle. I'm gonna give everybody about 30 more seconds to finish up their rectangle. Great job, engineers. I know this folding can be a little bit tricky, so I appreciate you all working so hard. We'll take a few more seconds here and then we'll move on to our last shape. All right, engineers, our final shape we're going to learn how to fold is a triangle. For our triangle, we need the same supplies. We need one piece of paper and some tape. Go ahead and grab those supplies and get them ready. I'm going to rip my tape up before I start folding. Okay. Now, to fold our triangle, we're going to follow the same steps we used to make a rectangle. So our first step, we're going to fold along our long edge, and we're going to fold it in half and match up our corners. And then we go squish, squish, squish. And we're going to fold it in half again. So I'm going to fold it over and line up my corners. And then I go squish, squish, squish. And just like before, we're going to open it back up. And we have our three sides that are going the right way. In fact, they already make a triangle. 1, 2, 3. We have the silly side. I'm going to fold that silly side back over and squish, squish, squish. Now, if I line up my edges again, I have a rectangle, but this time I'm going to fold them on top of each other and it will make a triangle. Then I find the edges that need tape. And sometimes it's easier if you have somebody else at home that can help you. You can have them hold your shape while you add the tape. All right, so I'm gonna put my tape on the edge. I'm gonna put some tape in the middle and some tape on the other edge. And we have our triangle. Right there, you can see the triangle shape. If you miss some of those instructions, don't worry, engineers, I'm gonna build this one again. Now, if you already made one triangle, you can choose to make another one, or you can just sit back and relax for a few minutes. But just in case anybody missed those instructions, I'm gonna fold a triangle again. So I get my piece of paper here. I'm gonna get some tape ready. I take my piece of paper and I fold it in half. And I go squish, squish, squish. I'm going to fold it in half again. So I take my piece of paper, I fold it in half again and line up the corners and then squish, squish, squish. Now I'm ready to open it up. So I open it up all the way. And I have my three sides that are going the right way. 1, 2, 3. And my silly side. I'm going to set my silly side down and fold it back over. And squish, squish, squish. Now I'm ready to fold it together. I overlap those two pieces of paper. And I have my triangle. Now I'm ready to tape it together. There's 1, 2, and 3. And we have a triangle. If you think that you could fold those 3 shapes by yourself, show me that raised hand. Right, looks like some engineers are feeling like they're ready to fold by themselves. If you are not quite sure, that's okay. I am happy to show you again at any time. All right, engineers, so here comes the fun part. We are ready to create our bridge. For our bridge building, here's what you need to do. You are gonna grab 3 more pieces of paper. 1, 2, 3. Then you're gonna pick one shape. Now for my first bridge, I'm gonna choose a rectangle. I think a rectangle is gonna be a fun bridge to build. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4 rectangles built. Right now you only have 1 or 2, but don't worry, you're gonna have time to build your other ones. So I have my 4 rectangles. You're gonna fold each piece of paper into your shape. So if you choose rectangles, you're gonna fold 4 rectangles. If you choose triangles, you're gonna fold 4 triangles. And if you choose cylinders, you're gonna fold 4 cylinders. Once you have your 4 shapes, you're gonna tape them together. And this part is a lot easier if you have somebody at home that can help you. So I have a friend here with me, and my friend is gonna help me fold these, or put these pieces of paper together. Everybody can say hi to Katie. All right, Katie, would you mind holding my shapes for me?
Of course.
Katie has our 4 shapes held together. I'm gonna take some long strips of tape. I'm gonna tape around the edge of my bridge. This part's a little tricky. All right, we got 1 around the edge. Then I'm gonna get another piece of tape. And I'll put 1 around the middle. Then we put 1 around the other edge. And now my bridge should stay together. So now I have my 4 shapes. That one got a little bent, that's okay. And they are all taped together. So now, engineers, it's your turn. You are gonna build 4 of the same shape. And once you have those 4 shapes built, you're gonna tape them together. And after we finish that, I'm gonna teach you how to test our bridge to see how strong it is. So right now, I want you to type in the chat box, what shape are you gonna build your first bridge out of? What shape are you gonna make your bridge out of? Ooh, we got some triangles, some rectangles, cylinders, triangles, cylinders, rectangles. Awesome. All right, engineers, let's go ahead. We're gonna take 5 minutes to build our bridge. So remember, you're gonna make 4 of the same shape, and then you're gonna tape those together. And once you are ready and you're done building your bridge, you can show me that raised hand icon. We'll take 5 minutes. And if you need help or need help remembering how to fold a shape, you can type that in the chat box. Awesome. If anybody needs to go get more supplies because you maybe ran out of paper or tape, you are welcome to get up and get whatever you need at any time. Great. I see that some engineers are starting to finish their first bridge because they have their hand raised. Thank you to the engineers that are showing me they're ready to move on with their raised hand. We'll take a few more minutes to let everybody finish building their first bridge. Somebody just asked about taping the triangles. That is a really good question. When we tape triangles together, it's a little tricky. I'm gonna tilt my screen down again, and I'm gonna fold one more triangle so I can show you. Right, half, fold it in half, open it up, fold our silly side over, squish, squish, squish. And I'm ready to tape my triangle. The triangles are kind of tricky to tape together into the bridge, so I'm glad that somebody asked this question. When I tape my triangles together, I'm going to put them so that I have two that I have the pointy side up, and then in between those two, I'm going to put one that has the pointy side down, so the flat side is on top. So we're making a little bit of a pattern. We have pointy side up, pointy side down, pointy side up, pointy side down. I'm going to have my friend Katie come over here again, and she's going to hold my shapes for me. Once we have those shapes put together like this, I'm going to get my long strip of tape, just like before I tape around the edge. I'm going to put a strip of tape in the middle. And a strip of tape on the other edge. Thank you, Katie. Our triangles are kind of sitting on top of each other. Thank you to the engineer who asked that question. Thank you to those of you who are telling us that you are done. We're going to take about 1 more minute to let everybody finish building their first bridge, and then I will tell you what to do with these bridges. Ooh, someone's asking if we can do more bridges. That's such a great question. We're going to have a chance to build another bridge together in just a moment. And we will use other shapes. Great question. All right. Okay, engineers, now that we have our bridge, I'm going to show you how to test your bridge. We already asked about shapes, so we're going to skip this. All right, now that we built our bridge, it's time to test it. So this is where we're going to use our Tupperware containers, or whatever else you have, books, tissue boxes, cups. You're going to put those 2 Tupperware containers about 1 hand's length apart. So you want your hand to be able to fit in the middle here, because we're going to pretend that that is our water flowing through. And these 2 Tupperware containers are going to be our supports for our bridge. Now, the bridge that we just built, so your 4 shapes, that's going to be the part of the bridge that goes on top that people would walk across. And once I have my bridge set up, I want to see how strong it is. So here's how I'm going to do that. My weights today are pennies, and I have stacks of 10 pennies. So each of these little stacks is 10 pennies. I'm going to add my weight to my bridge, and I'm going to keep adding it until our bridge gets squished or falls down. And I'm going to show you what that means. Right now I see that I have 4 rectangles. I'm going to add weight until my rectangles start to squish and don't look like rectangles anymore. See how right there, they don't look like rectangles anymore? That's how I know my bridge is no longer strong. So I'm going to put my bridge up here, and I'm going to add some weight. If you want to count with me, you can. Each stack is 10 pennies. So I have 10, 20, oh no. My bridge already started to squish. Now I want to remember how strong my bridge is. So with my marker that I have, I'm going to write on my bridge 20 pennies. That way, I remember that my first bridge, if you can't see this, my first bridge only held 20 pennies. So right now, I would like you to go ahead and do the same. You're going to set up your bridge on your supports, and you're going to add weight until your bridge either falls down or gets squished. And once you finish testing your bridge with whatever weights you have, you can write down how much your bridge held. So if you have Legos, you can write how many Legos your bridge held. Or if you have blocks or pennies, whatever you have, write down how many your bridge held so that we can keep track of our results. Once you finish testing your first bridge, you can either tell us in the chat box or raise your hand. Awesome. If you need to get up to go and get your supports or any other supplies, you can go ahead and do that. Awesome. Some people are finishing up and are already telling us about how much their bridge was able to hold. Wow, we've got some strong bridges. It looks like some people are still adding weights. Their bridge has not squished or fallen over yet. Let's take a few more moments to keep testing these first bridges. If you're still testing, you can continue testing. If you are finished and you want to remember how much your bridge held, you can choose to either write it right on your bridge, or if you'd like, you can copy this table that's on the screen onto a piece of paper. Now, my first bridge that I made was the rectangle bridge, and my rectangle bridge held 20 pennies. So under the box, this is how many weights did your bridge hold? I'm going to write 20 pennies. This way, as I start to build more bridges, I can keep track of how strong each shape is because I want to learn more about which shapes are really strong. So you can either choose to write your result on your bridge or on a piece of paper like this. It looks like some engineers are telling us that they already wrote their results down. Awesome. Great job, everybody. Sounds like we have some really strong bridges being built. Now, I noticed that my first bridge was not as strong as I had hoped. My rectangle bridge was not very strong. I noticed it's very wobbly. And last time we were together, engineers were telling me they want their bridge to not be wobbly. So I'm wondering if a different shape might be stronger than a rectangle. So I want to build another bridge. And this time I'm going to choose a different shape. So for my second bridge, I chose to make cylinders. So I have 4 cylinders and they're already taped together. And I want to see if my cylinder bridge is going to be stronger than my rectangle bridge. So here's your job, engineers. You're going to choose another shape and you're going to fold 4 of the same shape again. And then you'll tape them together to make another bridge. And just like before, you're going to test that bridge the same way. So I'm going to set mine up. I'm going to put my bridge on top and I'm going to add weight until it starts to squish. So I'm going to start adding my weight while you test your bridge. So go ahead, choose another shape, build your 4 shapes, tape them together, and then test your second bridge. And once you have your second bridge tested, I would love to hear how many weights was your second bridge able to hold. I see that somebody else maybe just had the same problem that I had. So on my bridge, I put 300 pennies on it, and that's all the pennies I have, but my bridge isn't really starting to squish yet. It still looks like circles. So on my piece of paper where I record my data or my results, I'm gonna write 300 plus under the cylinders. That tells me I could have kept going, I just ran out of weight. If you have finished building your second bridge, you can type in the chat box how many weights was your bridge able to hold. And I'd also love to know, what shape did you build for your second bridge? Ooh, looks like somebody got 236 plus. Awesome. 45 plus with a circle bridge. Ooh, sometimes you might run out of space on your bridge to add more weights. That's okay. If that happens, you can do the same thing where you can just make that plus sign. That tells us we could have kept adding more weight. We just ran out of space or ran out of weights. A triangle bridge held 712 weights. Wow. 6 books, awesome. Thank you so much for sharing all of your results, engineers. We'll take about 1 more minute to finish testing our second bridge. If anybody is still making their bridge, that is okay, you can keep going. Wow, someone's bridge held 13 books, that's awesome. All right, so just like before, if you haven't done this already, you can write down how many weights your bridge held, either on a piece of paper or right on your bridge. So I would love to know which bridge that you built so far out of the 2 was the strongest. Go ahead and type in the chat box which shape made the strongest bridge for you. Circle. I noticed that my circle bridge was a lot stronger than my rectangle bridge too. Awesome. Looks like some engineers are sharing how much weight their bridge was able to hold. Awesome. Some people were able to hold all their weights and it still didn't fall over. That's wonderful. Cylinder bridges seem to be pretty strong so far. All right, now engineers. We haven't quite finished our engineering design process yet. We created some bridges, but now our job is to improve them. So I want you to think right now, how could you improve one of the bridges that you built? What could you do to improve your bridge? I'm thinking about my rectangle bridge, and I know that it was not very strong. And I'm wondering if I could make this bridge better by maybe adding some more tape around the edges. I want you to think, how could you improve your bridge? What could you do to make it even stronger? If you have an idea about how to make your bridge even stronger, go ahead and type it in the chat box. Maybe you would fold your paper a different way, or maybe you could add more tape. What could you do to make your bridge even stronger? Ooh, someone has an idea to add more cylinders. Interesting. So maybe instead of only having 4 shapes, if we had more shapes, it would make it stronger. That's a great idea. Ooh, maybe making it thicker. I was wondering the same thing, Colin. I was thinking maybe if I could make my shape thicker and smaller, it might work better. And I actually decided to try that. So I have these cylinders right here, and I rolled them into super tiny ones. I noticed that these are a lot thicker than my other cylinders. So making thicker shapes might make them stronger. Great ideas, everybody. Thank you for sharing. So even though our time today is coming to an end, you can keep testing more bridges at home. So maybe you already have an idea for how you could improve your bridge. Maybe you could try out all 3 shapes. So I know that I haven't tried a triangle bridge yet, so I might try to build a triangle. You might design your own style of bridge. Maybe you have a different idea about a shape you could make. Maybe you might test out some different sized bridges. I have these small ones right here. Or maybe you combine shapes. Maybe you make 2 cylinders and 2 triangles. But I challenge you, engineers, to keep testing these bridges at home. See if you can make a bridge that's even stronger than your strongest bridge so far. Now, before we say goodbye, I would love to know, why do you think engineers build and test multiple models of bridges? Why did we not stop building after our first one? Why did we build a second bridge? Go ahead and type your answer in the chat box. Why do we think engineers build and test multiple models of their bridges? Ooh, Rhiannon says to make it even better. I agree. Amber thinks to make a better design. Absolutely. To make sure people are safe. So true. To improve their bridges. Yeah, if I would have quit after my first bridge, I know that my first bridge was not very strong. But since we were able to continue building them and create more, we built a stronger bridge. Absolutely, we want to make sure that we can improve our design and make it safe. To make it the best. I agree. Ooh, to make it better and more cost-effective and efficient. Great answer. That's true. Engineers do like to build. Maybe they enjoy just building more than one. Thank you so much for sharing those answers, engineers. Now, let's go back to our problem. My friend was over on the side of the river and they were yelling at me that they had something so cool to show me. And I was really stuck and I couldn't figure out how I was going to cross that river. But thanks to all of you, I think we were able to solve our problem and build that bridge to help us get across the river. And my friend told me they had something really cool to show me. And guess what the really cool thing was? My friend saw a bunch of baby river otters on the other side of the river. So once I got across, I got to go see those really cute little baby otters. I want to say thank you all so much for joining us for Think Like an Engineer. I appreciate your help solving our problem and working so hard. We hope to see you next time for our next webinars. Bye, engineers. Yeah.
So, built bridges, parents have taken pictures. Please, if you'd like to tag SNJ on your social media, if you post it, so at Sierra Nevada Dreams, Instagram or on Facebook. Thanks for joining us.